She smiled while deleting every photo of us like they meant nothing. I didn't even ask to see her phone. That's what haunts me most. She sat across from me at the little breakfast table by the window, sunlight hitting her skin just right, the cherry print dress slipping off one shoulder. She looked like the beginning of summer, carefree, serene, almost cinematic. My coffee was going cold. Her fingers swiped across the screen lazily, like she was flipping through a magazine. I saw it over the rim of my mug, thumbnail after thumbnail disappearing into nothingness. Took me a few seconds to register what I was looking at. Photos, our photos, her and me, laughing on the beach, covered in flour at Christmas. The one where I proposed, the one where she said yes, gone, with a swipe of her thumb. "What are you doing?" I asked, careful not to raise my voice. She looked up, eyes wide, a smile still lingering on her lips. "Oh," she said, as if I'd asked her what time it was. "Just clearing space. My storage is full." Something about the way she said it scratched at my ribs, like an itch I couldn't reach. I opened my mouth, closed it again. Clearing space. We had a whole life on that phone. She noticed me watching too long, set the phone down, reached for her coffee. "Don't give me that look," she laughed. "I've got everything backed up." I wanted to believe her. I told myself not to make it a thing, not to overthink, not to become one of those husbands who obsesses over breadcrumbs. But a part of me, some small, primal instinct I couldn't explain, logged the moment like a red flag being quietly raised. That morning was the first time I felt it. Not panic, not anger, just a subtle shift, like when you're swimming in the ocean and the current changes beneath you. We'd been married for 8 years. She was my first big love, the kind that rewires your bones. I'd met her in a bookshop of all places. She asked if I was going to buy the copy of Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet I'd been holding. I said no, handed it to her. We got coffee 2 doors down. She wore the same smile then. Back then, I thought it meant something. We used to joke that she was the hurricane and I was the lighthouse. She'd float through rooms, talk to strangers, pull joy out of thin air. I kept the structure, the rhythm, the grounding. I didn't mind that she was a little wild. I just didn't realize how far she could drift. The second moment came a week later. We were at a rooftop bar downtown. Her best friend Lena had invited us. There were fairy lights, overpriced cocktails, and too many influencers posing for content. She wore the cherry dress again. I told her she looked like trouble. She said, "Maybe I am." It was a joke. I laughed, but there was a man at the bar. Tall, tanned, the type you see in ads for yachts or watches. He looked at her like he recognized her, and she looked back just a second too long. Not long enough to start a fight, just long enough to remember. Later that night, she danced. Not with me, with Lena and a group of people I barely knew. I watched from the edge of the floor, drink in hand, feeling like the old dog waiting by the door. She laughed harder than she'd laughed with me in weeks. And then he was there again, the yacht model, buying a round of shots, making everyone cheer. Lena leaned into me and said, "That's Adam. He's in real estate or something. They used to hang out." Used to. I watched as he handed her a shot. She didn't look for me in the crowd, didn't check where I was. She toasted with him, and she drank. On the drive home, she rolled down the window and let the wind whip her hair around. She hummed to some indie song I didn't recognize. I wanted to ask her what that look meant, the one she gave him, but she beat me to it. "Don't be jealous," she said lightly. "I'm not." "Good." She smiled out the window. "Because there's nothing to be jealous of." That night, she fell asleep with her back to me, and I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. The next morning, I checked her phone while she was in the shower. I hate that I did it. I'd never done it before. It felt like crossing a line I swore I'd never touch. But some part of me, the part that couldn't sleep, that couldn't forget that toast, that glance, that swipe of her finger over our photos, needed to know. She had no messages from him, no calls, no saved photos. But she did have a second gallery, hidden. I didn't open it. Not then. I heard the shower shut off, panicked, and set the phone back where it was. But the knowledge of that hidden album sat in my chest like a stone. Heavy, still, waiting. That evening, she wore the cherry dress again. We weren't going anywhere, just dinner at home. Pasta, wine, candlelight. She lit the little tea lights herself. Said she missed how we used to be. She danced barefoot in the kitchen, humming the same song from the car. Beckoned me to join her, and I did. For a moment, I almost let myself believe everything was fine. That the glances, the laughter, the hidden album, none of it mattered. But then her phone buzzed. She froze in my arms, just for a second, then smiled, kissed my cheek, and walked over to pick it up. She read the message, turned her back to me, typed something, deleted the thread, then walked back, like nothing happened. Who was that? I asked. No one. Wrong number. She smiled. Same smile as always. But now I knew what it was hiding. That night, while she slept, I opened the hidden album. What I saw made my chest go cold. And the worst part wasn't the photos themselves. It was that they weren't of her. They were of me. Screenshots, conversations, moments I thought were private. She'd been sharing me with someone else. And I had no idea why. I scrolled for what felt like hours. Some of it was innocent. Me tying my tie, carrying groceries, sitting half asleep on the couch with a book in my lap. But the captions beneath the photos weren't for me. They were for someone else. Little remarks. He always does this when he's stressed. This is when he found out his friend cheated on his wife. You can see it in his face. I wonder if he ever suspects. Not one message said my name. Just he, him, the husband. My head spun. I put the phone down gently on her nightstand like it might explode. She shifted beside me in her sleep, sighed softly. My wife, the woman I made lasagna for 2 nights ago when she came home crying about her sister's divorce. The woman who, while I rubbed her back, must have been thinking, I wonder if he knows he's being watched. I didn't sleep. I watched the sun rise through the curtains and tried to find one reasonable explanation. There wasn't one. That morning I acted normal. Too normal, maybe. I made coffee, scrambled eggs, asked if she wanted her usual toast or something different. She looked at me funny, like she was waiting for a shoe to drop. She chose oatmeal. I watched her eat, and all I could think was, who are you sending this to? After breakfast, she kissed my cheek, said she had errands, and disappeared into the day like smoke. I didn't follow her. Not yet. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, looking at the coffee mug she'd left behind, tracing the lipstick mark she didn't bother to wipe. Was this the first betrayal, or just the first one I saw? Later that afternoon, I opened my laptop and did what I swore I wouldn't. I searched. Not her phone, not her emails. Him. Adam, the yacht model from the rooftop bar. I remembered his last name from a tagged photo Lena had posted months ago. I found his LinkedIn. Real estate, of course. Big smiles, big claims. Luxury homes. High-rise deals. A list of clients he probably couldn't remember. Then his Instagram. Private. But Lena followed him. And my wife. They all followed each other. Of course they did. I messaged Lena. Casual at first. Hey, what do you know about Adam? Her reply came a minute later. Ha! Why? Getting jealous? I stared at the blinking cursor. No, just trying to figure some stuff out. Another pause. They used to talk. A while ago, but she swore it was never serious. You know how she flirts. It's her thing. Used to. It's her thing. I felt something behind my ribs snap. That night, I didn't say a word. She came home late, hair tousled, smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. She said she went shopping. There were no bags. She said she stopped by her sister's. Her sister posted a photo from Napa that afternoon. She didn't know I checked. I kissed her on the forehead and said, "Long day." She smiled. The longest. Then she went upstairs and turned on the shower. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen, watching my own reflection. A man who knew, a man who couldn't prove it. Yet, The next day I called in sick, waited until she left. Then I went to the drawer in her vanity, the one she thought I never opened. I didn't know what I was looking for, a receipt, a note, something. Instead, I found a small box wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a necklace, delicate, gold, not the kind she usually wore, not for me. The tag was still attached, and tucked beneath it, a receipt. Adam and Company, fine jewelers, not even subtle. I stood in our bedroom holding the necklace like it might whisper something to me. I imagined him giving it to her. Maybe she laughed when he clasped it around her neck. Maybe she wore it out of spite. Maybe she never planned to wear it at all. A gift just in case. When she came home that evening, I tried again. "You still talk to Adam?" She looked up from her wine, blinked once, then again. "No. Why would I?" I nodded. Let her lie. I was past the point of being shocked, but not past the point of needing to know more. So I did the one thing I promised myself I never would. I installed spyware on her phone and waited, because now it wasn't just about catching her. It was about how long she'd let me pretend, and how much of me she'd already erased. The first message came in just after midnight. She was asleep, her back curved toward the wall like she wanted to disappear into it. I lay beside her, eyes open in the dark, waiting for something I didn't want to see. Her phone buzzed once, then again. I turned onto my side and listened to her breathing, steady and soft. She didn't wake up. I reached over and lifted her phone from the charger with 2 fingers like it might bite. The app one installed mirrored everything to mine, messages, photos, even deleted threads. It was there waiting for me. "Adam, tonight was hard. Seeing you leave like that." Her. It had to be quick. He was suspicious. "Adam, I miss you already." Her. "Me too." I didn't move, didn't breathe. I reread the exchange 4 times. Tonight. Quick. Suspicious. So it wasn't just emotional anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. The next day I said nothing. I kissed her like I always did before leaving for work, except I didn't go to work. I parked 2 blocks away and waited. Watched the front door. Watched her walk out 20 minutes later, wearing a coat she never usually wore, with a scarf I'd never seen. She didn't drive. She called a rideshare. I followed. She got dropped off at a cafe on the edge of downtown, the kind that made latte art and overcharged for pastries that looked like jewelry. And then he arrived. Adam, tan coat, sunglasses, perfectly groomed stubble. He looked like a man who hadn't failed at anything in years. They didn't kiss, not in public, but they sat too close in a booth meant for 4. She touched his hand. He touched her knee. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles cracked. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was how easy it looked for her, how natural, how she never even glanced over her shoulder. I drove home on autopilot, barely remembering the turns. When she got home 3 hours later, she brought tulips. Tulips, of all things. "I saw these and thought of you," she said, holding them out like a trophy. They were my mother's favorite flower. She knew that. I took them, put them in water, then went to the garage and threw up behind the car. That night, I watched her cook. She sang to herself as she chopped vegetables, asked what show we should binge next, poured wine like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't bleeding beneath my skin. I nodded, smiled, played along. I was becoming someone else, someone I didn't recognize, someone who wanted revenge more than he wanted answers. I called Lena the next morning. "Can I ask you something serious?" I said. "Of course. Has she ever told you she was unhappy? With me?" Silence, then a sigh. "Sometimes she says you don't see her anymore, that she feels invisible. Invisible, like all the late nights, the planning, the anniversaries, the trying to keep things exciting. None of it mattered because I didn't notice the exact shade of loneliness she wore. I was invisible, but Adam wasn't. I started documenting everything. Screenshots, voice memos, times, dates. Not for the courts, not for custody. We had no kids, just the ghosts of what we thought we wanted. I documented it because I needed something real, something undeniable. because a part of me still hoped she'd admit it, that she'd fall apart and tell me everything. Beg, explain, cry. But that part of me was shrinking fast. She started acting differently, nicer, softer, more sex, more wine, more little notes left on the fridge. Miss you. Let's go away this weekend. Maybe she could sense the shift. Maybe Adam pulled back. Maybe she was trying to crawl back into the version of herself that was still mine. But I knew better. I watched the messages slow down, then stop. Not because they ended, but because she started using a different app. One the spyware couldn't see. Encrypted. Private. I only found out because her phone buzzed once, and the preview said nothing. Just, new message received. I asked her about it. She said it was a game notification. I nodded. The truth now hung between us like a sharp wire stretched across a hallway. We both pretended not to see it, but we stepped around it every day. One night I woke up and she was gone. Not missing, just not in bed. I found her downstairs, sitting in the dark, staring at her phone. I stood in the doorway watching. She didn't notice me. Her lips moved, silent. Then she smiled. The same smile she gave me the day she deleted our photos. And just like that, I knew what I had to do next. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. But I could break something she cared about. Quietly, carefully, the same way she'd been breaking me. It started with her toothbrush. She always used the pink one. Always. For 8 years. Even when we traveled. Even when I forgot mine and had to use a hotel's disposable. She'd still pack her pink Sonicare in the hardshell case like it was sacred. So when I saw it missing from the bathroom one morning, I didn't panic. Not right away. People forget things. But then I noticed her perfume. The little square bottle with the gold lid. The one I bought her in Paris 3 anniversaries ago. Gone. And the overnight bag she kept in the back of the closet. The one she only used for work trips or emergencies. Also missing. She was still home. Still asleep. But part of her was already packed to leave. I didn't say anything. I made coffee. Folded laundry. Played the long game. Because that was the new rhythm now. She lied with her silence, and I responded with mine. But the game only works if both players stay blind. And I was done pretending. That afternoon, I took the day off. Told her I was slammed with client meetings. Kissed her on the temple. Then drove to the address I'd pulled from Adam's LinkedIn bio. He owned 3 condos in the city. One was under renovation. One was on Airbnb. The third had her favorite blanket in the window. She always left it wherever she got cold. A mustard yellow throw with little tassels. She brought it to movie nights, camping trips, hospital visits when my dad was sick. It was part of her. And now it was hanging in Adam's downtown condo, folded over the back of a white leather couch like it belonged. Like she belonged. I didn't knock. I didn't try the door. I just stood on the sidewalk and stared. It was one of those new buildings with all-glass fronts and balconies no one ever used. It looked sterile, like it had never held pain or truth. I wanted to smash one of those windows, but instead I took a photo. The blanket, the couch, the home I never knew existed. That night she came home late, said traffic was bad, said she stopped for groceries, said she almost picked up takeout but thought we could cook together instead. She kissed me twice. Once on the cheek, once on the lips. Both felt like apologies for crimes she wasn't ready to confess. I kissed her back, told her I missed her. She smiled like that was enough. After dinner, I found the overnight bag back in the closet. Toothbrush returned, perfume in place. She was cleaning up, covering tracks. She sensed something. Maybe she saw it in my eyes. Maybe she smelled it on me. Because betrayal has a scent once you've breathed it in long enough. It stains everything. The next day, I met with a friend from college. His name was Patrick. Divorce attorney. The kind that doesn't advertise. He listened for a full hour. Didn't interrupt. Didn't flinch. Just let me speak. Then he leaned forward and said, "You've got enough. More than enough. But you have to decide. Do you want the truth? Or do you want the power?" I blinked. "What's the difference?" He smiled, but not kindly. "Truth gets you closure. Power gets you control. They rarely come together. I nodded, heart heavy. I wasn't ready to decide. Not yet. That night, she asked if I wanted to go away for the weekend. Just us, she said, pouring wine. Like we used to. I played dumb. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just missing you lately. She touched my hand. The one she used to draw circles on when she was nervous. Now she used it like a distraction. I agreed. Of course I did. Because the plan was already forming. And I needed the weekend. Not for reconnection. For exposure. I booked the cabin. Secluded. Quiet. 3 hours from the city. Wi-Fi but no cameras. She packed light. Too light. Only one book. 2 dresses. No laptop. Her phone, though, she never let it out of her sight. Not once. She even took it to the bathroom. Even to the shower. That's when I knew the messages were still happening. Still ongoing. Still alive. So I made sure the first night was perfect. Cooked her favorite meal. Played the playlist from our honeymoon. Made her laugh. Made her comfortable. Made her lower her guard. And when she finally fell asleep, curled on the couch beside the fire, I picked up her phone. And this time I had the password. Because the one thing she always underestimated was memory. And I remembered everything. Even the name of her childhood cat. The app was there. Encrypted. Hidden behind a calculator icon. Classic. I opened it. There they were. All of them. Dozens of messages. Voice notes. Photos. One of the cabin. Taken earlier that day. Sent to Adam. We're here. Finally alone. Feels surreal. His reply came 3 minutes later. Don't forget why you're there. He deserves to know. So do you. So, this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was strategy. This was choreographed. And I had just walked willingly into the trap. I didn't wake her. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just stood over her, phone in hand, watching the flames dance behind her silhouette. And I felt nothing. No rage. No heartbreak. Only clarity. Because now I understood. She didn't just lie. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to rewrite the story. And in her version, I was the villain. Morning came soft and quiet. I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, black coffee. Like nothing was wrong. She came down wearing one of the dresses she packed. Ivory linen, the one with the open back. Her hair was damp from the shower. Her face fresh, untouched by makeup. She looked like the woman I married. But all I could see was the woman who sent Adam a photo of our cabin. "You're up early," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I nodded. Couldn't sleep. Too much wine. Something like that. She didn't press. Just sat across from me and ate in silence. Like we were an old couple who'd made peace with the unspoken. But I hadn't. Not yet. After breakfast, she suggested a hike. "There's a lake nearby," she said. "Want to see it?" I agreed. Of course I did. We packed water, granola bars, sunscreen. She wore that cherry-patterned sundress again. The one she always brought out when she wanted attention. The same dress she wore the night she danced with Adam like I didn't exist. She didn't notice when I slipped her phone into my jacket pocket instead of hers. I was done watching from a distance. Now I needed to know everything. The trail was narrow. Pine needles cushioned our steps. The only sounds were birdsong and the low hum of summer wind threading through the trees. She talked a lot. About nothing. Old vacations. A recipe she wanted to try. How maybe we should get a dog. I let her talk, because soon she wouldn't have the chance. We reached the lake around noon. It was still, almost glass. She kicked off her shoes, walked to the edge, dipped her toes in. "Cold," she said, laughing. I sat on a rock a few feet back, watching, thinking. The phone in my pocket buzzed once. I didn't need to check. It was him, Adam, waiting for her update, waiting to see if she'd finally said it, finally ended it. But she hadn't. Not yet. She walked back toward me, eyes squinting against the sun. "You okay?" "Yeah." "You've been quiet. Just tired." She sat beside me. We stayed like that for a while. Then she reached over and took my hand. There's something I waited. She hesitated. There's something I've been meaning to say. There it was. The moment. The pivot. She took a breath, looked out at the lake. I know I haven't been easy to love lately. I stayed silent. But I want to try. Really try. I think we lost each other for a bit. And I think I want to find our way back. I blinked. That wasn't the confession I was expecting. That wasn't the end she was supposed to deliver. Unless she was stalling. Unless Adam told her to wait. To twist the narrative. To make it look like I had drifted. I had failed. I pulled the phone from my pocket and handed it to her. You forgot this. She froze. Her hand hesitated just an inch too long before taking it. Thanks, she said softly. But the blood had already drained from her face. Back at the cabin, I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, opened my phone, and began forwarding every screenshot, every message, every file from her secret app to an encrypted cloud folder Patrick had helped me set up. Redundancy, he said, just in case she decides to burn it all down, just in case she flips the story. When I was done, I flushed the toilet for show and stepped out. She was on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, voice hushed. I didn't interrupt. I just listened. He's being distant. I think he knows. Pause. No, I didn't tell him. Not yet. I was going to, but I couldn't. Another pause, because he looked at me like he used to, and it messed with my head. Long silence. Okay, I'll talk to him tonight. Promise. She hung up, then stood there a moment, staring at the trees, her shoulders sagging, like she was tired of pretending too. That evening, as the sun bled into the hills, I lit a fire, poured wine, set the mood for her final performance. She came out in the other dress, black, thin straps, one she hadn't worn in years. She looked beautiful, like the woman I once believed in. We ate in silence. Then, halfway through the second glass, she said it. There's something I need to tell you. I looked at her, just looked. She twisted her ring, took a breath. I met someone, a while ago. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. She waited for me to speak. I didn't. She continued. It got out of hand. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want to hurt you. Another pause. But the truth is, I think I fell in love with him. The fire cracked. A log shifted. She looked down. I'm sorry. 2 words. That fix nothing. And change everything. I nodded slowly, then stood. Walked to the edge of the porch. Hands in pockets. Heart a clenched fist. She stayed seated, watching me, waiting for the storm. But I wasn't angry. I was calm, because the moment she confessed, the burden shifted. I was free, and she was finally out of lies. I didn't say a word that night. Not during the silence after her confession. Not when she reached for my hand. Not when she whispered. I didn't want it to end like this, because it wasn't ending. Not yet. We drove home the next morning. 3 hours. 1 gas stop. No music. She stared out the window the whole time. I drove like it was any other Sunday. Turned on the signal. Merged politely. Didn't flinch when her phone buzzed twice and she turned it face down in her lap. At one point she said, "Thank you." I didn't ask what for. I didn't need to. She was thanking me for my silence. For not yelling. For not making her feel small. But I wasn't being kind. I was preparing. Because you don't confront a storm when you're unarmed. You wait. You build. And then you strike. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow circles. She lay beside me, curled up, pretending to sleep. I could feel the tension in her back, the tremor in her breathing. She was waiting for it to come crashing down. But I'd learned something over these past few weeks. The most painful revenge is quiet. Not rage, not screaming, just silence. And the slow, deliberate removal of your presence. I started with the small things. Stopped making her coffee in the morning. Didn't ask how her day was. Didn't touch her. Didn't kiss her goodbye. She noticed. She didn't say anything. But I saw it in the way she lingered in doorways. in how she started to clean more than usual, in the extra care she took with dinner. It was a slow unraveling, like she was trying to sew us back together while the threads were already cut. Then I changed my passwords, bank accounts, streaming services, laptop logins, all of them. She asked once, "Did you change the Netflix password?" "Yeah," I said. She waited. I didn't offer it. She nodded and walked away. A week later, I moved into the guest room. No explanation, no fight. I just folded my clothes, carried them down the hall, and shut the door. She stood in the hallway watching. "Is this? Are you leaving me?" I looked at her, really looked, and in that moment, I saw all of it. The guilt, the fear, the realization that the man she betrayed was not going to crumble. He was going to disappear, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to hold on to. "Not yet," I said. Then I closed the door. She tried to fix it. Therapy appointments, date nights, love notes in my lunch bag like we were in high school again. She even wore the cherry dress one night. But now it looked like a costume, a parody of who she used to be. It didn't work, because you can't unring a bell. You can't unspeak a betrayal. And you sure as hell can't unlove someone who stopped loving you the second they looked into someone else's eyes and saw possibility. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. A dinner, pasta, red wine, candlelight. She leaned in and said, "I ended it. With him. I blocked him. I chose you." I took a sip of wine, chewed slowly, swallowed, then said, "You don't get to choose me." Her eyes widened. "What? You don't get to cheat, lie, manipulate, and then choose me like I'm a consolation prize. That's not how this works." She went quiet. The candles flickered. "But I thought." "You thought wrong." She looked like she wanted to cry, but the tears didn't come, because even she knew, deep down, this wasn't about regret. It was about consequences, and I was finally ready to let them land. That night, I sent the files to her email. Everything. The messages, the photos, the audio clips, a complete archive of her secret life. No note, no explanation, just the truth. Undeniable, unforgiving, final. She found them the next morning. I heard her gasp from the bedroom, heard the soft thud of her sitting on the floor. She didn't come to me. She didn't say a word. I left the house before she could, and for the first time in months, I breathed like a free man, because it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about reclaiming the parts of me she tried to erase, and finally realizing I was never the villain in her story. She just needed me to be, so she could feel better about becoming one herself. She didn't speak to me for 3 days, not in anger, not in sadness, just silence, like she had finally stepped into the consequences she never thought would find her. I didn't break it. I didn't comfort her. I went about my day like I lived alone, took longer showers, blasted music when I cooked, slept with the door closed. Her world was shrinking. Mine was expanding. The guest room didn't feel like exile anymore. Felt like freedom. On the 4th day, she knocked. Soft. 3 times. I was folding laundry. "Can I come in?" "Sure." She stood in the doorway like a stranger, her face bare, tired. A hoodie I hadn't seen in years draped over her shoulders. She looked smaller than usual. She didn't sit, just stood there, arms crossed. "I read everything." I nodded. "I know. How long did you know?" "Long enough." She blinked fast. "Why didn't you say anything? Would it have changed anything?" She opened her mouth, closed it. I waited. "I don't know," she said, and I believed her. She finally sat on the edge of the bed. "I've been trying to figure out when it started. Not the cheating, the distance. Does it matter?" She looked at me. "Doesn't it?" I sighed. "You made the decision to leave before I ever knew there was a choice. That's what matters." Silence again. Then, "Do you hate me?" "No." She looked surprised. "Then why won't you fight for this? For me?" I stood, folded the last shirt, placed it gently in the drawer. "Because I already did. You just didn't notice." That night, I stayed at a hotel. I left a note on the fridge. Don't wait up. No explanation. No lie. Just space. And for once, she didn't chase me. The next morning, I met with Patrick again. He slid a manila folder across the table. Everything you need's in here. She can't touch your accounts. The house is yours. No kids, no alimony. Clean break. I stared at the folder. It looked too thin for something so heavy. What if I don't serve her yet? You want time. I want clarity. He nodded. Then don't wait too long. Pain makes people stupid, and she already made her first move. I understood what he meant. She wasn't the only one capable of rewriting stories. That evening, I came home to an empty house. No note, no car in the driveway, no shoes by the door. I didn't panic, didn't assume the worst. Instead, I poured a drink, sat on the couch and waited. An hour later, she walked in, eyes red, hair pulled back like she'd been driving with the windows down and her thoughts scattered to the wind. She stood in front of me. I went to see him. I didn't flinch. And it didn't feel like I thought it would. How did it feel? She sat across from me, hands clasped, like a door closing. She looked older that night, not in a cruel way, in a weathered way, like someone who'd been through a storm and realized she brought the rain. I thought he saw me. And I didn't? No, you did. That was the problem. I frowned. What does that mean? She looked down. You saw all of me, not just the pretty parts, not just the curated image. And I didn't want to be seen that clearly. Not then. So you chose someone who only looked at the surface. Yes. She said it like a confession to herself. Not to me. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she said, "What happens now?" I sipped my drink. Let the fire crackle a little longer before answering. That depends. On what? On whether you want closure or power. She tilted her head. Is that what you want? Power? I shook my head. No, just peace. Her eyes welled again. This time she didn't fight it. She asked if she could stay in the guest room. I agreed, not out of kindness, but because the man she betrayed wouldn't have. And I wasn't him anymore. The house felt different now. Not broken, just quieter. Two people living under one roof, sharing meals, hallways, muted acknowledgments, but not the marriage they once had. She kept to herself. Woke early, ran long, took up journaling again. I heard the scratch of her pen through the walls at night. Sometimes she cried. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a stifled, lonely sound that reminded me how far we drifted. I didn't check on her, not because I didn't care, but because that care now lived in past tense. I was making coffee one morning when she entered the kitchen, barefoot, wrapped in a sweater that used to be mine. She didn't speak right away, just stood beside me and watched the machine hiss and steam. Then, "Do you ever think about the beginning?" "All the time." "What do you miss most?" I handed her a mug. She took it like it weighed more than ceramic. "The certainty," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, that." We stood in silence for a minute longer. Then she walked away. She didn't finish the coffee. One afternoon, I saw her in the garden. She was pulling weeds from the flower beds we planted together 2 summers ago. It struck me how deliberate she was now. Every motion purposeful, as if tending to something real might undo the parts of her that broke. I watched from the window, not with longing, with clarity. She was trying to rebuild a home inside herself. And maybe, in some quiet way, I was too. The next time we spoke, it was over dinner. She made chicken piccata, from scratch, with lemon slices and rosemary sprigs. The kind of meal she used to prepare when we were new and still trying to impress each other. "I think I want to move out," she said, while slicing into her food. I looked up. "Okay." She didn't expect that. "That's it. That's it. No questions? No discussion. You want to leave. I won't stop you." She nodded slowly, eyes glistening but dry. "I thought you'd be relieved. I thought you'd never lie to me." She flinched, but didn't argue. She moved out 2 days later. Just a suitcase and a box of books. Said she'd come back for the rest later. I helped her carry it all to the car. She paused at the door. "Do you hate me now?" "No," I said. She bit her lip. Waited. "Will you ever forgive me?" I leaned against the doorframe. I already did. The moment I knew it wasn't about me. She looked confused. "Then why does it still hurt?" I stepped forward, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It just means I'm not going to carry your weight anymore." That was the last time I saw her, at least in person. She emailed once. A short message. No subject line. "Thank you for not becoming the villain I feared you would. I didn't deserve your silence. Or your kindness. I hope you find someone who sees the whole of you and stays." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Weeks passed. The house grew quieter, but not lonelier. I started reading again. Left the TV off. Cooked for one without sadness. Took long walks with no destination. Some nights I still thought of her. Not with bitterness. Just memory. Like an old injury that aches in the rain. But in time, even that began to fade. One Sunday, I passed a woman wearing a cherry print dress at the farmer's market. She laughed into her phone, carefree, spinning slightly as she walked. It hit me like a wave and then was gone. Not because it hurt, but because I realized the woman I loved had vanished long before the betrayal. And maybe I had too. There was no grand revenge. No final confrontation. Just two people who broke in the same place and decided not to glue it back together. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the pieces where they fell.